Okay, so let us start with our first topic. So in our first topic, more on memorization siya and familiarization din if you can. So let's start first with the common names of the parasites. So I'm sure you're very uh, oriented na or very familiar with the common names of the parasites. So ito siya, common names and other known infections. Okay? So for Ascaris lumbricoides, or the intestinal nematodes, Ascaris lumbricoides, its common name is giant intestinal roundworm. So Ascaris lumbricoides is the giant intestinal roundworm. So it is also the largest intestinal nematode, diba? Largest intestinal nematode. Then it can cause gangrene. So when it infects the parts of your body like the bowel and the liver, it could cause gangrene. And also, it can cause worm ball. So, di ba nakikita nyo sa Twitter or sa Facebook ba na there are people in which they're parang pag labas ng kanilang, when you open their bowel or their intestines, you can see para siyang mga spaghetti and marami siya masyadong worms, adult worms. So that's what you call the worm ball. Okay. So next are the hookworms. So hookworms, first is Ancylostoma duodenale. So Ancylostoma duodenale, you can also call it as old world hookworm. So old world hookworm. Okay. So Necator or Necator americanus, depends on how you pronounce it. So N, New World hookworm. Tapos diba parang mas social siyang Americanus. So New World, American, New World. So N. Okay, so Old World hookworm, Ancylostoma duodenale, and Necator americanus is New World hookworm. So Ancylostoma duodenale and Necator americanus, so both of them are the intestinal hookworms. So they cause intestinal problems. Meanwhile, Ancylostoma caninum, Ancylostoma brasiliense, Ancylostoma ceylanicum, they can cause cutaneous infections. But Ancylostoma ceylanicum can also cause intestinal infections, pero more of cutaneous infections ito sila. So Ancylostoma caninum and Ancylostoma brasiliense, you can call them cutaneous larva migrants. Okay? So sila yung nagkakos ng creeping eruption. Okay, so Ancylostoma caninum and Ancylostoma brasiliense, cutaneous larva migrants. So take note of the word cutaneous larva migrants. Kasi mamaya may other larva migrants pa tayo. And for Ancylostoma ceylanicum, the other name is golden hamster hookworm. So golden hamster hookworm. It is also the smallest hookworm. Okay, so Ancylostoma ceylanicum, golden hamster hookworm or smallest hookworm. So siya ang smallest hookworm. Okay, next. So Toxocara canis and Toxocara cati. So Toxocara canis and Toxocara cati are what we call animal ascarids. Animal ascarids. So they are called as visceral larva migrants. So visceral larva migrans. So diba different from cutaneous larva migrans of Ancylostoma caninum and Brasiliense and Toxocara canis and cati. Visceral larva migrans. And they can cause toxocariasis. So toxocariasis, toxocariasis. Then Toxocara canis is also called as dog ascarid. Diba? As you can see sa name, canis, dog. Then Toxocara cati, cat ascarid. Okay? So, cutaneous larva migrans, Ancylostoma caninum and Brasiliense. Then visceral larva migrans, Toxocara canis and Toxocara cati. Okay, understand? Sige, let's move on. So, Enterobius vermicularis. Ito, medyo marami siyang mga names. But you can see, di ba, yung sa perianal part siya naka-infect or nakalagay. So, you can see sa kanyang common names na bakit ganito yung name niya. So, it can also be called pinworm. So, pinworm. Because parang pin yung kanyang adult worm. Then, seatworm. Diba? Seatworm. Because seat, sa perianal part. Or sofa worm. So, sofa worm. Inhaled worm. Kasi diba, it can be transmitted through inhalation, yung eggs niya. So, inhaled worm or daycare worm, social worm, community worm, or kindergarten, di ba ang dami? Kindergarten worm, or familial worm. Kasi madali siyang i-transmit to other people. That's why social, community, daycare, kindergarten, because since nasa perianal part siya, it can stick to a lot of surfaces that people can touch. So, di ba, pag matouch nila, they can get the eggs and then they can ingest the eggs. So, it is called daycare worm, social worm, sofa worm. Kasi madali lang siyang matransmit na worm. Okay? So, Enterobius vermicularis can cause pruritus ani, diba? It can cause the itching of the perianal part. Okay, next is Trichuris trichura. So Trichuris trichura is also called as whipworm. Okay, whipworm. Kasi it resembles a whip. And then it can also be classified or it can also be named according to the shape of its egg. Kasi diba, very characteristic ang shape ng egg ng Trichuris trichura. So, for example, lemon-shaped egg. Diba? It's like a lemon. Then football-shaped egg. Barrel-shaped egg. Or Japanese lantern-shaped egg. So lemon, football, barrel, Japanese lantern, these can all be used to describe the eggs of Trichuris trichura. So when the exam says, so a barrel-shaped egg, a football-shaped egg, so you will be having a clue kung ano ba talaga yung parasite na tinutukoy sa question. Okay? Okay. So next is Strongyloides stercoralis. The Strongyloides stercoralis is also called as threadworm. Okay? So it is also called as threadworm. And it can cause Cochin China diarrhea. Cochin China diarrhea or Vietnam diarrhea. Sa lahat ng mga inchik-inchik na mga words, Strongyloides stercoralis. Okay? Cochin China diarrhea. Cochin China diarrhea and Vietnam diarrhea. Next, Capillaria philippinensis. So Capillaria philippinensis can also be called as mystery worm, putok worm. Kasi doon siya na first identified sa putok or peanut worm. Kasi di ba, Trichuris trichura, lemon, football shape, Japanese lantern. Meanwhile, Capillaria, it has the, diba, the flat na mga periphery ng kanyang egg. So it is called as peanut worm. Okay? And it is also called as bagsit worm. Bagsit worm. Okay? So mystery putok, peanut, bagsit. Next, anisakis. So anisakis is also called as fish and marine mammal worm. Fish and marine mammal worm. So fish and marine mammal worm. So sa name niya pa lang, it can be acquired through eating fish and marine mammals. Okay? And it is also called as herring worm. So, di ba, very, yung anisakis kasi nandun siya sa cells at work, di ba? So, anisakis is fish and marine mammal worm or herring worm, di ba? Ang kalaban nga nila doon is fish, parang fish siya, di ba? Or marine animal. So, ayan. Next is Angiostrongylus cantonensis. So Angiostrongylus cantonensis, it is called now as Parasitology cantonensis. So the updated name is Parasitology cantonensis, but baka tatawagin pa rin siyang Angiostrongylus cantonensis. So Angiostrongylus cantonensis is also called as rat or rodent worm. Excuse me. Rat or rodent lungworm. Rat or rodent lungworm. Okay? So you can see it's a rats and some rodents. And it can cause eosinophilic meningoencephalitis. So Angiostrongylus cantonensis can cause eosinophilic meningoencephalitis. Okay? So next, Trichinella spiralis. So Trichinella spiralis is also called trichina worm. Trichina worm or muscle worm. Kasi diba, it affects the muscle cells or the muscle tissue of the human host. So it is called as trichina worm. So trichina worm and muscle worm. So, question lang, what do you think is a diagnostic sample for Trichinella spiralis? Diba? It is muscle biopsy. So, kaya siya muscle worm kasi muscle biopsy. Okay? So, next, Racunculus medinensis. It is also called as fiery serpent worm. So fiery serpent worm. And it is also the longest nematode that can affect humans. Okay? So Racunculus medinensis, fiery serpent worm, and the longest nematode that can affect humans. But when you are asked the largest intestinal nematode, Ascaris lubricoides. Pero pag longest nematode, walang nakasabi na intestinal, Racunculus medinensis. Kasi diba tissue nematodes naman ang Angiostrongylus, Trichinella, and Racunculus. Okay? So we are done with the intestinal and tissue nematodes. So let us now go on to the filariae, or the blood and tissue nematodes. So first is Wuchereria bancrofti. So Wuchereria bancrofti is also can cause Bancroftian elephantiasis. So Bancroftian elephantiasis. Bugia malayi, on the other hand, can cause Malayan elephantiasis. So itong Bancroftian elephantiasis, it is almost exclusively located sa lower extremities. Okay? While Malayan elephantiasis, upper extremities. But both of them, actually, itong apat, Wuchereria, Bancrofti, Brugia, Loa Loa, and Anchacerca, they can cause elephantiasis. So Loa Loa is also called as the African eyeworm. So meron ka ng clue on what it affects, diba? So it can cause ocular problems. Okay? So next is Onchocerca volvulus. So Onchocerca volvulus is also called as the blinding worm. So both sila ng lowa-lowa is sa eye. But ang lowa-lowa, ang tawag is African eyeworm, while Onchocerca volvulus is called blinding worm. Okay? Then, Onchocerca volvulus can cause river blindness. So it doesn't mean ang African eyeworm, lowa-lowa, eyes din siya, it can cause river blindness. No. Onchocerca volvulus is the one that causes river blindness. Next, Dirofilaria immitis. So this is a dog tissue nematode. Okay? So we will we can discuss it further later in our topic proper. Okay? So filariae can cause Bancroftian, Malayan elephantiasis, and can also cause blindness. So kaya siya blood and tissue nematodes, diba? So next is the only ciliate that can affect humans. So it is Palantidium coli. So siya lang, very special siya kasi siya lang yung ciliate na nakakakos ng infections sa humans. So it is the only pathogenic ciliate. Okay? Only pathogenic ciliate. And it is also called as pork ciliate kasi it can be acquired through ingesting pork or undercooked pork. And it is the largest intestinal protozoan. Okay? So it is the largest intestinal protozoan. So Palantidium coli, very special, only pathogenic ciliate, and it is also the largest intestinal protozoan. Okay? Next. Next is the flagellates, or next are the flagellates. So first is Giardia lamblia. So Giardia lamblia is very common, diba? You can hear it almost anywhere. So Giardia lamblia can cause gay bowel syndrome. Kasi diba fecal oral siya na flagellate. So gay bowel syndrome. It can also cause steatorrhea. So what is steatorrhea? Diba steatorrhea is the presence of fat or lymph in the stool. So Giardia lamblia can cause steatorrhea. Can also cause malabsorption. So itong malabsorption na sinasabi, this is what we call Leningrad's curse. Leningrad's curse, okay? So Giardia lamblia, gay bowel syndrome, steatorrhea, and malabsorption, also called as Leningrad's curse. Okay, understand? So its trophozoid is very characteristic in shape. So its trophozoid is shaped as an old man with glasses. Diba? Old man with glasses. And smiling face trophozoid. Now, when you see pictures, alam mo talaga na Giardia labliatroph siya kasi old man with glasses and smiling face, trophozoid. And also, tennis racket without handle. Diba? Ang dami ng mga trophozoid na characteristics. Okay, next is Chylomastix mesnili. So, Chylomastix mesnili, it is characterized by a shepherd's crook shape. So, shepherd's crook shape. Okay? And then its cyst is very characteristic, in which it is lemon or nipple shape. Kasi it is like a lemon with a protuberance, a small protuberance that can be seen like a nipple. So lemon or nipple shape. Okay? But when you say lemon-shaped egg, lemon-shaped ovum, you say trichuris trichura, diba? Pag lemon-shaped cyst, Chylomastix mesnili. Okay, understand? Good. So next is Trichomonas vaginalis. So Trichomonas vaginalis is also called as the vaginal flagellate. So vagina, sa name pa lang niya, di ba? Vaginalis. So Trichomonas vaginalis, vaginal flagellate. It can cause ping pong disease. So why do you think it can cause ping pong disease? Bakit ping pong disease ang tawag? Kasi di ba, pwede mo siyang ma-infect, parang balik-balik lang yung infection sa inyo when you have sexual contact. So when you have Trichomonas vaginalis and you have a sexual contact with another person, you can cause infection to them. And they can also cause infection to you and to other people. So kaya yun, ping pong disease. Okay? And it can also cause strawberry cervix. So why is it called strawberry cervix? So strawberry cervix, it's like may mga maliliit na hematoma sa iyong cervix and vagina. So parang may mga maliliit na pula. That's why it is called strawberry cervix. So bleeding of the cervix and the vagina. Kasi di ba vaginalis sa vagina siya. So it can cause difficulty sa iyong urination, sexual contact, so strawberry cervix. While for males, it is also almost always asymptomatic. Okay? So next is Trichomonas tenax. So Trichomonas tenax is the oral flagellate. So if vaginalis is vaginal, Trichomonas tenax is oral flagellate. So you can transfer this through kissing, through sharing your utensils or your toothbrushes. So kaya siya oral flagellate. It can be found in your oral mucosa. Okay? So we are done with the flagellates. Next, we will go to the hemoflagellates. So sa hemoflagellates, first is Trypanosoma cruzi. So Trypanosoma cruzi, can cause American trypanosomiasis. So American siya, ang Trypanosoma cruzi. Okay? So Trypanosoma cruzi can also cause Chagas disease. So Chagas disease ang other name ng kanyang illness that it can cause. Or Chagas disease can present with chagoma, which is a tumor, and Romagna's sign. Okay? So Romagna's sign. So Trypanosoma cruzi, American trypanosomiasis, Chagas disease, chagoma, and Romagna's sign. Okay? So next, we will go to Trypanosoma brucei gambiense. So Trypanosoma brucei gambiense is West African sleeping sickness. West African sleeping sickness. So, pag gambiense, West African. Pag rhodesiense, East African sleeping sickness. So, West Gambiense, East Rhodesiense. Okay? So, different yan sila. And Trypanosoma gambiense can present with winter bottom sign. So winter bottom sign is like a very large inflammation sa under your ear or sa likod ng iyong nape. Okay? Winter bottom sign. So Gambiense, West African sleeping sickness. Rhodesiense, East African sleeping sickness. While Cruzi, American trypanosomiasis, and Chagas. Makikita mo, diba? C, Chagas, Cruzi, C. So, Chagas Cruzi. Okay? So, we are done with the Trypanosoma species. Now, we will go to the Leishmania species. So, Leishmania species. First, Leishmania donovani can cause visceral leishmaniasis. Leishmaniasis, okay? Donovani, visceral. It can also cause dum-dum fever. So I think you've heard of this. Dum-dum fever and Kala-Azar disease, okay? So Leishmania donovani, visceral leishmaniasis, dum-dum fever, and Kala-Azar disease. Next, Leishmania tropica. Leishmania tropica is old world cutaneous leishmaniasis. So old world cutaneous tropica. It can also cause Delphi boils, Pian boils, Oriental sore, and Utah sore. Okay? So marami siya, tropica. Old world cutaneous leishmaniasis, Delphi boils, Pian boils, Oriental sore, and Utah sore. Next is Leishmania mexicana. So when tropica, old world, mexicana is new world. Cutaneous leishmaniasis. Okay? It can also cause sclero ulcer of the external ear. So, sclero ulcer of the external ear. So, pwede ka mag-mnemonics. Tropica, old world hookworm. Old world cutaneous leishmaniasis, rather. Then Mexicana and New World cutaneous leishmaniasis. Okay? So, you can look into that. And next is Leishmania brasiliensis. So mucocutaneous. If the other two are cutaneous, so Mexican and tropical cutaneous, brasiliensis is mucocutaneous leishmaniasis. And it can also cause espulia. Okay? So, visceral donovani, tropica, old world cutaneous, Mexicana, New World cutaneous, Brasiliensis, mucocutaneous. Okay, so now let's go to the sporozoa or the malarial parasites. So Plasmodium vivax, it is also called as the benign tertian malaria. Benign tertian malaria, while Plasmodium ovale is also called as benign tertian malaria. So both sila benign tertian malaria. So it is called tertian kasi diba every 48 hours it affects another it brings about another cycle of the disease malaria. While Plasmodium falciparum is malignant tertian malaria. So benign yung dalawa, ito malignant tertian malaria, diba? Because Plasmodium falciparum can bring about a more complex or a more severe malarial symptoms than the other two. Pero sila tatlo tertian kasi it can cause cycles by 48 hours. Okay? Plasmodium falciparum can also cause black water fever. So why do you call it as black water fever? It is black water fever because it causes hemolysis sa iyong RBCs. And when your RBCs are hemolyzed, it can give pigments to your urine. So when your urine, when the human with Plasmodium falciparum voids out their urine, it will be colored brown to black. So that's why it is called black water fever. So fever because, di ba, basta malaria fever talaga siya. So Plasmodium falciparum, black water fever, malignant tertian malaria. So the three of them tertian, while Plasmodium malariae, benign quartan malaria. Kasi every 72 hours siya. Okay? Kung 48 yung iba, 72 siya. So, quartan malaria ang Plasmodium malariae. So, what is the fifth Plasmodium? So, fifth Plasmodium is Plasmodium knowlesi, in which we will tackle it later when we go on to the sporozoans. Okay? So, okay pa ba tayo dyan, guys? So, bear with me. You can pause the video, but make sure to not stop with this part. Kung napapagod na kayo, just take a rest and let's take a rest for how many minutes, or give your eyes a rest before going to the next part. Okay, so let's go to the trematodes. So Clonorchis sinensis is also called as Oriental or Chinese liver fluke. So, di ba, trematodes, flukes yan sila, di ba? So, most of them are called flukes. So, sa liver flukes, Clonorchis sinensis, Oriental or Chinese liver fluke. Parang Chinese ba, sinensis lang, in-check siya. So, Oriental or Chinese liver fluke. Next, Opisthorchis felinius is cat liver fluke. So, di ba, felinius, feline, cat liver fluke. Okay? Next is Fasciola hepatica, sheep liver fluke or temperate liver fluke. So sheep liver fluke or temperate liver fluke. Temperate siya because it is more on the temperate countries such as US, marami siya doon. Meanwhile, Fasciola gigantica is the giant liver fluke. So gigantica, giant liver fluke. And it is also called tropical liver fluke. So mas marami yan dito sa Philippines. In tropical countries like the Philippines, mas maraming Fasciola gigantica infections. Okay? So as you can see, liver fluke ang names nila. So, Clonorchis, Chinese, Felinius, cat, hepatica, sheep, temperate, gigantica, giant, and tropical liver fluke. Okay? So next are the intestinal flukes. So liver flukes yung kanina, ngayon intestinal na naman. So Fasciolopsis busci is also called as giant intestinal fluke. So giant liver is Fasciola gigantica, but giant intestinal fluke, Fasciolopsis busci. Pag giant intestinal roundworm, Ascaris lumbricoides, di ba? Okay. Next is Echinostoma ilocanum, Garrison's fluke. So take note, Echinostoma ilocanum, Garrison's fluke. Next, Heterophis von Siebold's fluke. And it is the smallest and most dangerous fluke. Di ba kung sino pa yung maliit, siya pa yung very dangerous. So small but terrible, si Heterophis. Okay? Next, blood flukes. So the blood flukes are the Schistosoma species. So Schistosoma japonicum is oriental blood fluke. Japan, oriental, di ba? Japanese, Oriental. Next, Schistosoma mansoni. Manson's blood fluke. Diba? Madali lang siya. Manson's blood fluke. Okay. Schistosoma hematobium. Vesical blood fluke. So bakit siya vesical blood fluke? Because it can cause diseases in your urinary tract. So urinary bladder. So urinary bladder siya. And vesicle, it is a word that can describe sa mga diseases sa bladder. Okay? So vesical blood fluke, schistosoma hematobium. Okay? So next, lung fluke. So the only lung fluke that can cause infections in human is Paragonimus wassermanni. So Oriental lung fluke. Okay? And its intermediate host is Sundathalfusa philippina. So what is Sundathalfusa philippina? It is a freshwater mountain crab. So very din siya, characteristic na freshwater mountain crab. Okay? So doon pala sa blood flukes, Schistosoma japonicum and mansoni, both of them can cause sa mga intestinal and sa liver na problems, while Schistosoma hematobium can cause urinary tract problems. Okay? So when you look at the flukes or the trematodes, makikita mo kung ano yung clinical presentation niya. For example, when you are infected with fasciola hepatica, so it will then go hand in hand na your clinical manifestations will be liver problems, diba? So pag fasciola hepatica, mga cirrhosis, hepatitis, ganyan agad siya. Pero pag intestinal, kunyari echinostoma ilocanum infection, so infections of the intestine, so inflammation of the intestine, diarrhea, mga ganyan agad ang kanyang clinical manifestations. Okay? So pag Paragonimus wassermanni, it can cause pulmonary TB-like infection. Kasi diba lung siya, lung fluke. So when you are infected with Paragonimus wassermanni, you can have a pulmonary TB-like infection. So next, cestodes. Diphyllobothrium latum, also called as broadfish tapeworm. And it can cause vitamin B12 deficiency anemia. So because Diphyllobothrium latum competes for our vitamin B12 stores, so it can cause vitamin B12 deficiency anemia. Tinea solium, pork tapeworm. Okay? It can also cause cysticercosis. Tinea solium can cause cysticercosis, while Tinea saginata is beef tapeworm. So they are called pork tapeworm and beef tapeworm because you can acquire it through ingestion of poorly cooked pork and beef. So solium pork, saginata beef. Next, Hymenolapis nana, dwarf tapeworm. Because it is very small, that's why it is called dwarf tapeworm. So actually, it is the smallest tapeworm. Okay? Next, Hymenolapis diminuta, rat tapeworm. Okay? Next, Echinococcus granulosus, hydatid cyst tapeworm. Hydatid cyst tapeworm. So, it is called as hydatid cyst tapeworm because nagfo-form siya ng mga hydatid cysts in its infected host. Next, Echinococcus multilocularis, fox tapeworm. Okay? Then Dipylidium caninum, dog tapeworm, caninum tapeworm, and double or tapeworm or pregnant tapeworm. Why is it called double pore tapeworm? Kasi yung mga segments niya, there are 2 genital pores. Usually kasi, ang genital pores, 1 lang per segment. But dipylidium caninum. So caninum, dog tapeworm, di means 2 genital pores. Okay? So that's all for the common names. Okay, so we are done with the common names of the parasites. So now we will move on to the infective stages of the parasite.